Hey, what's up, metal and heavy music fans? It's Flight of Icarus again with MetalTrenches.com, and today we're talking about death metal band Of Feather and Bone and their third album, Sulfuric Disintegration, via Profound Lore Records. And hey, if you like to be kept up to date with the best and brightest metal bands and albums from the underground and above, then stick with me by hitting that subscribe button down below. Of Feather and Bone are another sickeningly extreme band hailing from one of my favorite US metal hubs, Denver, Colorado. After getting some critical attention with 2018's Bestial Hymns of Perversion, the trio seemed prepared to take their intensity to the next level in the vein of bands like Tomb Mold, Malthusian, and Seputus. Sulfuric Disintegration occupies a niche in the greater genre that I've come to call atmospheric death metal. It's the perfect combination of blackened atmosphere and crushing old-school death metal ethos, and damned if this isn't one of the most consistent examples of it to date. This is a seemingly unending assault on the senses that spirals down and down into infinity despite its extremely concise 30-minute runtime. Every time I listen, I feel like I've entered an in-the-mouth-of-madness-like universe where time is relative and there's no escape from the Lovecraftian horrors ever looming just on the fringes. Blazing hellfires of blackened tremolos scorch the listening space, and not content even with simply leaving the ash in its wake, the pummeling blast beats, seriously, the drums on this album, kicking it up into the air, a black cloud blotting out the sun and leaving the listener blind and slowly suffocating. Punctuated by the occasional Slayer-esque solo, it's a truly sickening display indeed. And that's not even to mention the unhinged madness of these vocals. And while the tracks are similar enough in nature that I don't necessarily feel the need to name each of these moments by title, though I do find the absolutely disgusting imagery of baptized in boiling phlegm worth throwing out there, somehow the album never feels boring or repetitious to me. In fact, this only further highlights the aforementioned consistency of Sulfuric Disintegration as a complete work. Every track is equally solid and contributes to the greater whole. It's just one great and contemptible hellscape that just happens to be broken up into 6 parts, like a Dante-esque gauntlet for those brave enough to take the challenge and with just enough pace changes to keep you on your toes. Every time I started to wonder if Of Feather and Bone were going to fall victim to bland repetition, they sonically slapped me in the face for even entertaining such doubts. Time and time again this happened. In fact, just saying this, I'm starting to wonder if the band is purposefully baiting me like a cult testing whether a new initiate is in fact a true believer. And that's also not to say that while Sulfuric Disintegration is so consistent and pretty uniform in nature that there aren't those standout moments that are capable of making your jaw drop. There are certainly some hooks on here that are likely to stick with you, and more importantly, the way that this trio works as a unit on some of these transitions, perfectly coordinating drums, guitar, and vocals into one singular vision of destruction, definitely shines a light on the songwriting chops that can be easy to miss with this ugly style of music. So yeah, this album may not be the most original or mind-blowing album you'll hear in 2020, but if you're just looking for some unbridled slaughtering death metal that won't waste a second of your time, I assure you that you won't be disappointed on that front. I give Sulfuric Disintegration a 9 for enjoyability. Once more, there's not a dud out of these 6 tracks, and they've really tightened it up to the point that it never overstays its welcome. If anything, I find myself ever more entranced with each listen. I give it a 9 for musicianship. Ultimately, the focus here is much more on building the atmosphere than wowing you with any kind of real wankery, but even so, the sheer speed, especially again of these drums, is often enough to spin your head right off your shoulders. And I give it a 7 for innovation. Same old sound, but like the reruns of your favorite show, there's always a certain comfort in sticking to the basics sometimes. So an 8.3 overall and a solid B for Of Feather and Bone and Sulfuric Disintegration. Get it once more via Profound Lore Records. Y'all, thanks as always for watching, and let me know what you thought of this album. Maybe also, what's your favorite death metal album of 2020 so far? And hey, stick around because I got plenty more reviews coming right after this one, also tier list, interviews with bands on the podcast, you name it, we've got it. So again, plenty of reasons to subscribe if you have not already. Also in the description, you can find links to our social media platforms where you can follow us, the email newsletter I send out personally every Friday, and also our Patreon and Subscribestar if you want to make that extra jump to becoming a full-on supporter. Just $1 a month even gets you early access to content and helps me keep this train a-rolling. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.